Hello and welcome to episode 1 of the Team Behind the Shirt with Funding Circle. This episode is with Sam Underhill, one of Bath and England's premier rugby players. I think not arguably, England and Bath's premier man-stopper, the biggest tackler in the English game. But more than that, Sam is co-owner of Grass and Roots Coffee, which is a Land Rover, a mobile coffee machine with a coffee machine inside the Land Rover. Sam, welcome. So you started playing rugby as a kid like everyone else. At what point, and I know you will be allergic to being immodest, but at what point did you
realise I was all right?
Realise you were all right?
I got into the county team when I was 15. I think before that I struggled with things like passing off my left hand. Arguably still do sometimes, but
I wasn't going to say that.
Yeah, it's fair.
We're here to talk about you, but I think for a lot of my career, I was defined by my job as a rugby player, and I had to really work to not be defined by that and to be defined by other means. After I retired, and that was a struggle. But I want to.
You've done really well to get away from rugby.
Yeah, I'm not. I'm not a player. I'm not a player. But yeah, I thought, well, now I don't play rugby anymore, and I'm not that guy running out in the arena. What is there left of me was kind of thing. But actually, I wondered, do you feel like it defines you?
Yeah, I know what you mean. I think, I'd like to think I'll go gracefully when it's my time. But it's one of those where you have the more you're, say, rugby or sport, if you're good at it, you want to invest in it, and you want to then you sort of emotionally invest in it, and you care about it a lot, and then a lot of your sense of self-worth and self-esteem can be sort of directly linked to how that's going. So I think for a lot of players, that's something they kind of struggle with sometimes, because everything's going really well and it's amazing, so they throw themselves into it, and then it does define them, and then as soon as it starts to not go so well, I think that then can be quite challenging, because you start to question if this isn't going well, does that mean I'm as a person I'm failing? Whereas I think it's quite good to have that balance of knowing that, especially when it comes to things like selection or even performances, if you're picked in a team, that doesn't make you a better player. If you're not picked in a team, it doesn't make you a worse player. Or if you get a contract or not, it doesn't make you a better or worse player. It just means someone made a decision on those things for you. So I think it's quite a good thing to have a degree of separation between you as a person, you as a player, and then how your career is going, essentially. I think those three things can be quite different, and I think that's probably a good separation to have.
You know, when you're in a club like Bath, you've got lots of really good players in the back row in your position and positions close to it, so you can start some games, bench some games, and you can relax knowing that everyone will perform, and you probably don't want to play every minute of every game because it's a hard sport and all that. But with England, you presumably want to get picked every time. So when you're not picked, are you still able to exercise that separation and perspective?
Naturally, when things go well, you just throw yourself into it. You don't want to hold back, thinking, well, I want to be okay when it doesn't go well. I think ultimately it's still going to be upsetting, or you're still going to have some negative emotions when things start to not go well, because naturally you're invested in it. But it's important to get a sense of perspective, I guess, that if you don't get picked for a team, or if you get injured, or if you have a bad performance, that doesn't necessarily make you a bad player. I think I was a bit mopey about not getting picked in a couple of teams, and I remember Josie, my wife, just saying to me, I know you're disappointed, but it is just work, so any chance you could cheer up? It was it's so fair, actually, because you're moping around the house, and it's well, it is just work at a certain point, but it is also really important, and those two things you kind of have this ambivalence of, well, it is really important, but it is also a job. And at certain times, I think you need to dip into different mindsets.
You've gone the coffee route with Grassroots Coffee. Yeah. Why coffee?
Me and Ben Spencer started it. Ben was keen to, from memory, early conversations, Ben was keen to do a coffee vending service, of some sort. The Rec didn't have a coffee vendor, and I had a Land Rover on the drive, and said, why don't we convert it into a mobile coffee van? I sort of donated it.
You wore that cost?
As a director's loan, of course, but sort of.
That's spenny for you though, isn't it? It's a shame that.
Yeah, but to be fair, it was pretty 50-50 to set up. I would caveat this with Spenny does 90% of the actual work, because the van lives at his house, and therefore he organises a lot. And
it's funny you say that, because whenever I've seen the Grassroots Coffee landing, it's really, really cool. We'll talk about that in a sec. It's a cool idea. Whenever I've seen it, I think Ben has been there. Ben Spencer has been there 99 times out of the 100 that I've seen it, and I've never seen you there, which leads me to the question.
It's interesting. Normally they're after the games.
Yeah, do you actually? Oh, okay.
Clear up.
Pack
clear
away.
up.
Great guy. Do you actually know?
We got told off for work. We got told off for working that one.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, because we'd run short of baristas. We had a barista cancel on us, and so I wasn't playing. Shock. And I went and started doing the coffee, and I think it was Ed Griffiths at the time told me never ever to be doing coffee while there's a game on, and to get doing something useful on pitch side. And so we then
do not be entrepreneurial, please.
Basically, please stop. Which is a shame.
Do you actually know anything about coffee?
A little bit.
Yeah, okay.
I know how to make it.
Yeah.
Spenny's the sort of the connoisseur. He's well into it, and he's also way better than me at making it. But I know enough to get by. I'm
interested in kind of the support behind the scenes, the team behind the shirt thing. And normally if you ask a player who, you look back on who's given you the most support, who perhaps you might have lent on, from whom you've received the most guidance, quite often it's a coach. But actually, in a sense, it's their job to give you support. Someone who's paid an annual salary to give you support. I kind of think, well, of course you've had some good coaches. You're at the top of the game, but is there anyone else in your life that kind of behind the scenes?
No, definitely. Josie's my biggest support system. Definitely, that's my wife. Sorry, because the amount the game demands from you, and for the amount of, I guess, grace you're given by a significant other to be able to go and do what you want for a living, play a pretty silly game, be away from home a lot, especially, I was away for the autumn after Freddie was born, and that's a really difficult thing to parent on your own, especially as a new parent. I think things like that are pretty, you kind of pinch yourself, have to remind yourself that's not a given. That's not something that that is sort of expected. So that's incredible. My parents are only up the road, so they're at every game, whether I want them to be or not, to be fair. Can't really get rid of them. It's one of those things where you get used to a level of support. So I'm used to mum and dad being at games, but again, you kind of remind yourself that's a really lovely thing.
Privilege.
It is. Yeah. And you kind of need that sense of perspective to remind yourself that you're really lucky to have it. So Jose, her parents are amazing.
Oddly, although you're doing the banging and the clanging and it's inspiring young rugby players everywhere and all that stuff and commentators and fans, you go home and they're these incredibly selfless people who are happy to accommodate you the whole time. It's a different version of and even the support.
That's we're lucky because from an hour's point of view, the job's probably a good one.
Yeah.
You get to go home relatively early. You get, you're obviously off on weekends and you get camps and stuff, but you get a day off in the midweek, and you actually end up getting quite a lot of time at home. But the physical demands of I need to recover, I need to sleep well, I need to eat well, and things like that can be quite. Again, you can take them for granted, but it can be quite a sort of a demanding thing for someone to only eat certain foods or go to sleep at a certain time or leave the house to go and do recovery when there are a million other things that regular day-to-day things that you need to do. You need to still do the laundry and the washing up and the cleaning and walking the dog and looking after the baby and things like that. I think having a kid's really put into perspective for me what especially parents, especially sort of a lot of dads at the club do to combine their rugby and their partners and their family do to be able to combine the sport and home life is very impressive to me.
Well done, mate.
Cheers, Flats. Appreciate your time. Cheers, mate.
Exhausted, mate.
It's at least 5, isn't it?
You've got to make some tackles in 4 days' time. Get yourself home.
I can't believe you did.
Thanks very much for watching. This has been Funding Circle's Team Behind the Shirt with Bath Rugby's Sam Underhill.